REST data source type is the second most commonly connected to in Skuid, right behind Salesforce. So it may be a good idea to know how to connect and interact with data from a REST data source. If you don't have a business use case to connect to a REST API, don't wait until you need to. It's easy to find REST APIs with public access to play with in your dev org. In fact, there's a GitHub repository called Public APIs with tons of interesting data sets for you to connect to. We'll link to it in the description. Some require authentication and some don't. In this tip, I will show you how quickly you can go from a REST API endpoint to a functional Skuid page. For this example, I'm using the free-to-play games REST API, and I'd like to display this data in Skuid. First, I'll copy this endpoint URL and then create a REST data source in Skuid pointing to that URL. For authentication, I'll choose No Authentication. For business use cases, you'll likely need to set up authentication, and all that is covered in our documentations. But for now, let's stick with our simple example so we can see all the free games out there. And that's it for the data source creation part. I'll add a model pointing to the new data source, and in the URL endpoint, I can add /games to get the list of games. What you enter here will depend on the REST API you're working with. And for this library, my options are games, game, and filter. If your path is correct, when you go to fields, you see all the available fields for this dataset. A quick tip: if I want to add a model to get the game details when I click on a game on the list, I can use the /game path with the ID parameter like so. Then you can add a condition to the model in order to pass the ID from the list model to the detail model. This is a little bit different from how it works with Salesforce models, but once you start working with REST data sources more often, you get used to these specific patterns. Once you have your list and detail models, you can add the click interaction to activate and set model condition and query the detail model. Truth is, there is a lot more complexity in working with REST APIs than what I show here, but this is a great way to start for learning and exploring purposes. If you're currently building Skuid apps connecting to a REST API, don't forget to take advantage of our extensive documentation and our active community to get help from other Skuid builders. Thanks, and see you next time.